All right, so today we're diving into a book that's kind of become a bit of a cult classic in the startup world.
Yeah, 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel.
0 to 1. Notes on Startups or How to Build the Future, to give its full title. It's
Quite a mouthful.
Yeah, it is actually. But it's a book that really gets you thinking differently about innovation, about building companies that are truly, game changers.
Definitely. It's not your typical sort of step-by-step business guide.
Yeah.
It's more about challenging assumptions, getting down to those fundamental truths that Peter Thiel calls first principles.
Right, like that idea that Elon Musk always talks about, reasoning from first principles instead of just copying what everyone else is doing.
Exactly.
And you see that a lot in the book, like when Thiel contrasts globalization and technology as two different types of progress, he actually doesn't see globalization as real progress, which is kind of surprising.
It is. You'd think globalization, spreading ideas, connecting the world would be a good thing.
Yeah, instinctively you'd think so.
But his point is that globalization is really just about copying what already works, going from 1 to N, like opening a McDonald's in every country.
Yeah, so it's horizontal progress, right? Spreading things that already exist.
Exactly. Whereas technology is about creating something truly new, going from 0 to 1, like inventing the internet or, the first smartphone. That's vertical progress, a real leap forward.
So are you saying that we haven't really seen much technological progress since, like, the moon landing? I mean, there have been a lot of advancements in computers and the internet, but are we just kind of, rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic?
Well, that's a question that Thiel really grapples with in the book, and he uses this fascinating historical comparison to make his point.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that.
So he looks at the period between 1815 and 1914, a time when you had the rise of railroads, the telegraph mass production, a real burst of both globalization and technological advancement. But then he argues that since the 1970s, it's been mostly globalization with maybe less groundbreaking innovation outside of, IT.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's interesting. So he sees this kind of stagnation in terms of true technological breakthroughs.
Yeah, it's like we've become really good at copying and optimizing what already exists, but maybe not so good at creating something entirely new.
Okay, now get ready for this, because this is where Thiel throws a real curveball. He argues that monopolies are actually good for society. I know it sounds crazy, right?
Yeah, it definitely goes against everything we've been taught about, free markets and competition.
Right, like monopolies are the bad guys.
Yeah.
But Thiel has a very specific definition of what he means by a good monopoly.
Exactly. He's not talking about monopolies that stifle innovation through shady tactics or government cronyism. He's talking about companies that create so much value, so much abundance, that they naturally rise to the top. Like Google, for example, was able to dominate search because they built a vastly superior product.
So it's about monopolies that are born from genuine innovation, not from crushing the competition.
Right. And it makes you wonder if all this intense rivalry we see in some industries is actually hindering real progress.
Like that story Thiel tells about the PayPal engineer who literally wanted to build a bomb to take out their competitor, X.com. Talk about cutthroat competition.
It's a wild story, and it highlights this idea that relentless competition can push companies to focus on short-term gains instead of, creating truly new and valuable things.
Right, it becomes a race to the bottom instead of a race to the top.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about the future, which is another big theme in 0 to 1. Thiel outlines 4 different ways that people view the future. He calls them indefinite pessimism, definite pessimism, indefinite optimism, and definite optimism. Sounds kind of like a philosophy lecture, but it's actually really insightful.
Yeah, he breaks it down like this. Indefinite means you see the future as random, unpredictable. You basically throw your hands up and say, who knows what will happen?
So you're just along for the ride.
Right. But definite means you believe you can actively shape the future through deliberate action. You have agency, you can influence what happens.
Okay, so it's not just about being optimistic or pessimistic. It's about whether you believe you have control over the future.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that Thiel argues that Silicon Valley, while seemingly optimistic, actually falls into the trap of indefinite optimism.
Really? How so?
Well, they expect a better future, but their plans often amount to rearranging existing things, like creating new financial instruments or optimizing legal loopholes rather than focusing on groundbreaking technological advancements that would truly reshape the world.
So they're optimistic, but they're not really taking concrete steps to create the future they envision.
Right. It's like they're expecting it to just magically happen without really putting in the work.
And Thiel suggests that this indefinite thinking might be a consequence of the baby boomer generation's experiences.
Yeah.
Like they came of age during a time of rapid economic growth and technological advancement. So maybe they just assume that positive trajectory will continue without much effort.
Yeah, it's a provocative idea, isn't it? That our historical context can shape our view of the future for better or for worse.
It makes you wonder if we become a bit complacent, taking progress for granted.
Yeah, maybe we need to rediscover that sense of urgency, that drive to create something truly new.
All right, so let's move on to another fascinating concept that Thiel introduces the importance of secrets. He argues that truly valuable companies are built around secrets, those unique insights or innovations that others haven't discovered yet.
Right. Think of it like this. If everyone knows everything, then there's no room for innovation, no opportunity to create something truly new. It's like trying to build a successful business using only publicly available information. Everyone has access to the same playbook, so it becomes a race to the bottom.
So you need to have some kind of edge, some kind of secret sauce that sets you apart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Thiel uses this rather striking analogy. He compares great companies to conspiracies.
Conspiracies, that's an interesting way to put it.
It is, but I think it gets at something essential about what it takes to build a truly groundbreaking company. This idea that a small group of people are united around a secret mission to change the world. Like a band of rebels with a revolutionary idea. They believe in something that the rest of the world doesn't understand or maybe even dismisses.
So it's about having this shared belief, this secret that binds the team together and propels them forward.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, are there secrets hiding in plain sight just waiting for someone to uncover them?
That's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
To look beyond the obvious, to question conventional wisdom, to search for those hidden gems of insight that could lead to something truly groundbreaking.
Exactly. And that search might require a shift in mindset, a willingness to embrace the unknown, to step outside the comfort zone of what's already been done.
It's about cultivating a sense of curiosity, a thirst for knowledge, and a belief that there's still so much left to discover.
Absolutely. And that's what 0 to 1 is all about, encouraging us to think differently, to challenge assumptions, and to believe in the power of ideas to change the world.
It's a call to action, to go from 0 to 1, to create something truly new and valuable.
Exactly. And that journey, as Thiel points out, is rarely straightforward. It's filled with challenges, setbacks, and unexpected twists and turns. But it's also incredibly rewarding, both for the individuals who embark on it and for society as a whole.
So it's not just about building businesses, it's about building the future we want to see.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes 0 to 1 such a compelling and thought-provoking book. It's not just a business guide, it's a guide to thinking about the world in a new way.
I agree. It's a book that stays with you long after you finish reading it.
Definitely. All right, so that's a good overview of some of the key ideas in 0 to 1. But there's so much more to unpack in this book. So in the next part of our deep dive, we'll delve into some of the specific strategies and tactics that Thiel lays out for building successful startups. Stay tuned. So we've talked about going from 0 to 1, about these kind of groundbreaking companies that Thiel admires, but what makes them so special?
Well, he lays out some characteristics of companies that really achieve this kind of dominance.
Yeah, what makes them stand out from the crowd?
One big one he talks about is proprietary technology.
Okay, so not just like a slightly better product.
No, not just an incremental improvement. He's talking about something that's like 10 times better than anything else out there.
Wow, 10 times. That's a high bar.
It is. It's about creating something truly groundbreaking that changes the game. Like, think about Google's early search algorithm. It was so much better than anything else that it just dominated.
Yeah, or the iPhone, right? It wasn't just another cell phone. It was a completely new way to interact with technology.
Exactly. So that's one key characteristic.
What else?
Network effects.
Yes, the Facebook effect.
Exactly. The more people use a product or service, the more valuable it becomes.
But so it's not just about the features of the product itself, but the network of people using it.
Right. And that creates a huge barrier to entry for competitors.
Yeah.
It's really hard to lure people away from a platform with a large established network.
Yeah, it's like trying to start a new social media platform and convince everyone to leave their friends behind. Good luck with that.
Exactly.
So we've got proprietary technology, network effects. What's the third characteristic?
Economies of scale.
So as you produce more, the cost per unit goes down.
Precisely. Think about software. Once you've developed it, the cost of distributing it to another user is practically zero.
Yeah, so a company like Microsoft has a huge advantage over a small startup trying to sell a similar product.
Right, and that cost advantage can be used to further invest in innovation, lower prices, or both. It becomes a self-reinforcing cycle of success.
Okay, so we've got proprietary technology, network effects, economies of scale, and there's one more, right?
Yeah, branding. It might seem obvious, but having a strong brand is crucial.
Absolutely. Think about companies like Apple, Nike, Disney. Their brands go way beyond the products they sell.
They represent a lifestyle, a set of values, and emotional connection.
Yeah, they've built something really special.
And all these characteristics reinforce each other. A company with proprietary technology can leverage network effects to grow rapidly, which helps them achieve economies of scale. And all of that contributes to building a powerful brand.
It's like a flywheel that spins faster and faster.
Exactly. And it's not just about dominating one market. Thiel also talks about sequencing markets correctly. Starting small, dominating a niche, and then expanding to larger markets.
Right, like Amazon started with books and now they sell everything.
Exactly. It's about proving your concept, building a loyal customer base, and then scaling up.
Okay, so now I want to talk about something that Thiel seems to have a bit of a problem with, this whole obsession with disruption in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, he's not a fan of that buzzword.
Right. It seems like every startup wants to be the next big disruptor.
But Thiel points out that the original concept of disruption was about a specific kind of innovation, introducing a low-end product and gradually improving it to displace existing market leaders.
Okay, so it wasn't just about shaking things up for the sake of it.
Right. But Thiel argues that the term disruption has become so overused that it's lost its meaning.
So he's saying that focusing on disruption for disruption's sake can actually distract companies from creating something truly new and valuable.
Exactly. It's about building the future, not just disrupting the present.
And speaking of the future, Thiel has this whole chapter on luck, which seems a bit out of place in a book about startups.
You'd think he'd be all about strategy and execution.
Right. But maybe he's suggesting that there's more to success than just hard work and planning.
Well, he doesn't dismiss hard work or planning, but he does challenge this idea that success is mainly determined by random chance.
So he's not saying luck doesn't exist, but that we shouldn't overestimate its influence.
Exactly. It's about recognizing opportunities and being prepared to seize them. Thiel says that successful people tend to create their own luck by working hard, taking risks, and being open to possibilities.
Yeah, it's like that saying, chance favors the prepared mind.
Exactly. It's about being in the right place at the right time, but also having the skills and the mindset to capitalize on those opportunities.
Now, another key element of building a successful company is assembling a strong team, especially in the early stages.
Oh, absolutely. Thiel even compares choosing a co-founder to getting married.
Wow, that's a pretty serious commitment.
It is. You're spending countless hours together, facing intense pressure, making decisions that could make or break the company.
So it's essential to have shared values, trust, and a strong working relationship.
Absolutely. And Thiel also talks about aligning incentives within the company. He's a big believer in equity compensation.
So it's not just about paying people a salary, but giving them a stake in the company's success.
Right. It's about creating a sense of ownership and shared purpose.
But how do you determine the right equity split? It seems like a tricky problem.
It is. And Thiel doesn't offer a specific formula. He acknowledges that it's complex and depends on the circumstances of each company.
But he does offer some general guidelines.
Yeah, he suggests that equity should be allocated based on contributions both past and future.
So it's finding a balance between rewarding past contributions and incentivizing future performance.
Exactly. And recognizing that different people have different talents, responsibilities, and opportunity costs.
Okay, so now I have to ask you about this. Thiel compares successful startups to cults.
Yeah, that's a pretty provocative analogy.
It is. But I think it gets at this intensity and commitment that's required to build something truly groundbreaking.
Right. It's not just about having a great product or a clever business plan. It's about having a shared belief, a sense of mission that goes beyond making money.
So it's about believing in something bigger than yourself.
Exactly. Thiel says the best startups are united by a shared belief in a secret, something the outside world doesn't yet understand. They're driven by a mission to change the world.
It's like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Absolutely. Building a successful company requires a team of dedicated people who are aligned around a shared vision.
And that brings us to another crucial aspect that's often overlooked, distribution. Thiel challenges this whole Silicon Valley myth that great products will automatically sell themselves.
Right. If you build it, they will come.
But Thiel says that's simply not true.
He argues that distribution is just as important as product development, if not more so.
He even tells that funny story about how PayPal hired Scotty from Star Trek for a product launch that totally flopped.
It's a funny anecdote, but it makes a serious point. Distribution is not an afterthought.
You need to figure out not just what you're building, but how you're going to get it to the people who want it.
Exactly. Thiel says poor sales are the most common cause of failure, not a bad product.
So find the distribution channel that works for your business and double down on it.
Right. Instead of trying to be everything to everyone, find your niche and focus on reaching them effectively.
So everyone's selling something, whether it's a product, an idea, or even themselves.
Absolutely. And the best salespeople are those who can do it authentically, building relationships, creating value, solving problems.
Okay, finally, let's talk about Thiel's view on man versus machine. He seems to reject this idea that computers are going to replace us all.
He does. He argues for complementarity. Computers are tools that can augment human capabilities, not replace them.
So it's not about humans versus machines, but about finding the right balance.
Exactly. Thiel says computers are good at different things than humans. They excel at data processing repetitive tasks, brute force calculations.
But humans are better at judgment, creativity, complex decision-making.
Right. So the most valuable companies will be those that figure out how to leverage computers to help humans solve hard problems.
He also cautions against relying too much on big data.
Yeah, he doesn't see it as a magic bullet.
Yeah.
He thinks real breakthroughs will come from combining human intuition with the power of computers.
So it's about using technology to amplify human intelligence, not to replace it.
Exactly. And I think this ties back to Thiel's overall optimism about the future. He believes technology can be a powerful force for progress. We have the potential to create a much better future if we think differently and challenge conventional wisdom.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into 0 to 1, I keep coming back to this one line from the book.
Which one?
The most contrarian thing of all is not to oppose the crowd, but to think for yourself. It's like he's challenging us to break free from groupthink and really examine our own beliefs.
Yeah, definitely. And he doesn't just leave it at that. He actually outlines 4 potential scenarios for the future.
Oh yeah, the 4 different paths. What were they again?
Recurrent collapse, plateau extinction, and accelerating takeoff.
The singularity.
Right, exactly. It's like a choose-your-own-adventure for humanity.
Okay, so let's break those down. What's recurrent collapse?
Well, it's kind of a cyclical view of history. The idea that civilizations rise and fall in this endless loop.
So we're not guaranteed to keep progressing in a straight line.
Right. There could be setbacks, disruptions, even collapses along the way. Think about the Roman Empire, the Mayan civilization.
Yeah, it's a sobering thought.
It is. But Thiel does say that it might be less likely today because of how widespread knowledge and technology are.
We have more tools to prevent those kinds of collapses.
Right. But it's still a possibility.
Okay, what about plateau?
Plateau is a future where progress basically slows down or stagnates. We hit a wall.
So instead of those 0 to 1 leaps, we're just stuck in this 1 to n loop.
Exactly. Just incremental improvements, no real breakthroughs.
And Thiel argues that this is what happens if we don't generate new ideas.
Right. If we just keep copying what already exists instead of inventing new things.
It's the danger of complacency, getting too comfortable with the status quo.
Exactly.
Okay, and then there's extinction. Not the most cheerful scenario.
No, not really. It's the most extreme and hopefully the least likely. Thiel doesn't spend too much time on it, but he acknowledges that it's a possibility.
Especially with threats like nuclear war or AI.
Right. It's a reminder that our progress isn't guaranteed.
Okay, let's end on a more positive note. What about accelerating takeoff, the singularity?
This is where things get really interesting. It's the idea that technological progress keeps accelerating, leading to a future that's totally different from anything we can imagine today.
So super intelligent, AI, radical life extension, merging with technology.
Exactly. It's mind-blowing stuff.
And a bit terrifying.
Yeah, for sure. But Thiel seems drawn to this scenario. It aligns with his belief in the power of technology to solve problems and create a better future.
He doesn't seem to fear the singularity the way some people do.
Right. He's an optimist at heart. He thinks technology can be a force for good, even something as potentially disruptive as superintelligent AI.
So how does all this connect back to the idea of 0 to 1?
Well, I think Thiel is trying to show us the connection between individual creation and the future of humanity. He's saying that every time it's a challenge to tap into our potential, to uncover those hidden gems that could lead to something amazing.
It's an invitation to embrace our uniqueness and our ability to make a difference.
Exactly.
And that's a great place to wrap things up. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into 0 to 1. We hope you found it insightful and inspiring.
We do too.
Now go out there and create something amazing.